A meeting or two ago, we were sitting around discussing ways the evaluations could be a little better. Talked about putting together speeches maybe that could be controversial. David, thank you for bringing a speech that could certainly be considered controversial. A conspiracy theory website for us to all check out. Wow, I was not expecting that, especially from David. You don't seem like a conspiracy theory guy to me, David, but who knew? Thank you for the bravery. You put yourself out there, and you did it without getting up on a high horse. I was very impressed with all of that. Thank you for being brave and bringing an interesting topic that I would not have expected today. It's a good example that if you want to talk about politics, if you want to talk about an issue that's very important to you, but that may be controversial, feel free to bring it here and find a way to do it in a way that doesn't offend anyone. David, this was a research your topic speech, and you had a lot of websites, Q&I, the Q board, 8chan, QAnon.pub. I couldn't follow all of it. I apologize. I wasn't sure if these were other websites I was supposed to check or if they were sources for your information. I had a little bit of trouble following that, and I would say one way you could help with that is to cut down a bit on the opening. It was a little long getting into it. I would really have liked to see you condense that way down so that you could immediately jump into this material, which, as I said, could be seen as a little controversial and also a little hard for us to follow with all of those sources. The manual asks for you to have different types of sources. I would have liked to have heard from some counterpoints, maybe off the internet, somebody somewhere talking about this idea that didn't have to do with other websites referencing the idea. That's one way I think you could have credentialized yourself, as well as offered any opposition to the idea of a conspiracy theory website, at least some acknowledgement of why that might be. The John F. Kennedy quote, I like the fact that you made the point that it was not necessarily verified, but it was something that clearly motivated the people on, I believe it's QAnon.pub you were talking about who used that quote, but I don't at the same time know if that is helpful if you don't make a very big point of this is kind of what happens on this website is they use these ideas and quotes that we're not even sure if they're real, but at the very least you have a counterpoint to some of these news organizations, regardless of how you feel about Fox News or CNN. Speaking of which, I love the fact that you moved them to the left and right of the stage when you talked about you have these organizations over here and you have these organizations over here. I thought that was a really good visual for what you were trying to convey about the different sources you get. And I really liked your opening where you talked about all these questions and then took those questions off the table and said you're going to answer something else. And I like the fact you brought back the question idea in your close, where you said, one last question you cannot answer? Maybe not. Ms. General Evaluator.